All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Red Bus Podcast, episode 2, airing from inside the Red Bus today. I've got a special guest that is not in the bus with me today because if you saw my videos on Facebook and Instagram, we had a huge rainstorm yesterday. So my original episode 2 guest had to be rescheduled. He will now be our episode 3 guest. But today I've got a very special guest that was kind enough to jump in last minute and help a brother out. And when I say a brother, I mean literally my brother. So I'd like to welcome to the podcast today my brother Mike.
Hey,
He's younger than I am. He's more muscular than I am, but he
better
sure isn't
looking.
as good looking as me. No, I disagree on that one. But a little bit about my brother real quick. We haven't spent a lot of our lives together. Growing up, I spent like a weekend or maybe a week every summer coming up and visiting you.
Yeah,
It
maybe.
wasn't very much. Yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't much, right?
with Dan the Man
Dan, man.
on the license plate.
Yeah.
I'll never
So,
forget that
so
car.
yeah, I know that license plate did me dirty a little bit. But so we haven't spent a lot of time together in life. So I think that's going to be interesting to have a little bit of a conversation with you and kind of learn a little bit. I mean, I know you've had a journey in life, but I don't know a lot of your story because we haven't, been around each other that much. So,
Right.
if I just say we just get right into it, what do you think?
Absolutely.
All right. So I think today we'll start off with this. It's going to be a deep question for you.
Okay.
It's what do you think the single most important event in your life is that helped or hindered where you are today?
Prison.
Okay. Do you want to like expound on that a little
Yeah,
bit?
from 17 years old up until what, 34, I was in and out of jail, but this last time when I went to prison, it was for 6 years straight. And in that 6 years, the violence I seen, the things that not only I had to do, but I watched my friends have to do or go through just to survive and be at the top of the pecking order, turned me into somebody that I didn't want to be, and living around killers that are never getting out of prison, uh, uh, and hearing their stories and them, being a mentor and saying, bro, you have 6 years, you need to get out and do better. And then getting out and meeting Paige immediately.
So how did that change? How did that change you? Like it, let's just say, how did it change you in a good way?
Well, in a good way, nobody wants to have to be violent. Nobody wants to have to do things that they don't want to do. But for me, being able to do those things made me stronger mentally. So when I got out here, the transition for the first year or two was hard. I still had that same mentality, but it taught me that you have to respect people, but people have to respect you as well. You have to have a boundary with people, and you can't let people walk on you. So for me, I used to be a pushover. I used to be easily manipulated into, hey, go do this, go do this. So where now I'm not that guy, and I'll speak up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a quality that I think everyone should have, and definitely there are a lot of people that let other people walk all over them. That's definitely a thing. And then there's obviously the other end of the spectrum where there's the people that love to just walk all over everybody too. So I think it's good to have a
Oh,
balance, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'm not saying there aren't people that deserve to be in there, because there are,
Right.
right? We all
Right.
know who they
Yep.
are. We all know who they are. There's no need to say it. But even murderers and there's people that just like to commit crimes, whether it be stealing from people, breaking into homes, property theft, whatever. Those people that constantly do that stuff need to be in prison.
Yeah. Okay, so you've shared what you think has benefited you from that experience. What do you think has been the downside of that experience? I mean, do you have any
Time.
lasting downsides you think, or is just the time that you spent?
Oh, I mean, losing 4 kids, two to CPS and two to uh, their grandparents in Missouri. I mean, I try to connect with them now, and the only one I have a good relationship is my oldest daughter, Janae, because she has my 3 grandkids. Tylen lives in Spokane, and he's 21, but you know, he likes to try to manipulate me. Hey dad, he tries to get stuff over on me, and I don't let that happen, and I call him on his BS. And so we clash heads because, I wasn't around his whole life. He moved here when he was 20, and I've been around him for, a year and a half, and he thought I was going to be his best friend, and I'm trying to be his dad,
Right.
you know. And
Yeah.
same with Mike Jr. is I'm tough on him, and I think that without going to prison, I wouldn't be as good a dad today or ever, because I wasn't ready, man. I was a kid. I was stupid and I was naive.
Yeah. Okay. So what advice would you give uh, somebody out there that, is potentially going down that path to go into prison?
You got to change your scenery. You got to change your crowd, man. If you're not surrounded by people that want to see you succeed, those aren't people you want in your life. I'm telling you, because the people who I thought had my best interest in mind only wanted me to go back to prison. One of them's back in prison for life. He'll never get out. And the other one died.
Yeah. I
Don't
think
do drugs.
that's don't.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah, that's
They kind of
valid.
go hand in hand. When you're breaking the law and committing crimes, most people are doing it to feed their drug habit, because they're not working. you
Right.
know?
Right. Right. Well, I think that's valid and very insightful um, advice, especially, I mean, you have the experience, so you're one to speak on it. And I think that's great that you shared that experience and you're willing to talk about it, because I think there's a,
Listen, I had a buddy
go
come
ahead.
by. He just got out of prison like a year ago. I haven't seen him in 7 years. He came by here one day, just stopped at my house. And I looked at him and he tried to chop it up like we were buddy buddy. And I said, hey man, I haven't seen you in 7 years and you just come over to my house like for buddy buddy. I said, I don't talk to anybody that I used to associate with. And I said, I would appreciate it if you didn't come by again. Because that's just what I have to do. You have to set boundaries for yourself. You have to. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, brother, but yeah, I just felt like
No.
you know, kind of elaborate on it a little bit. Like it's. I mean, obviously it starts with you first, but you know, you got to want to change, and then second, you have to surround yourself with people that want to see you change or want to see you succeed for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a valid story that I remember from last time you were down here in Salt Lake. We were sitting around the house. We were doing a lot of sitting around, and you were like, "I got to do something. I got to do something." And I think that was your way of keeping yourself busy so that you don't go down the path again, right? Like letting your mind wander.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't. And that's what's been the hardest part about this last like 15 months is, you know, I'm recovering from this surgery. Then I recovered from this surgery. Then I recovered from this surgery. And I'm having to sit here and be stagnant. And you know, I go to these doctor's appointments and they ask you, hey, you know, are you feeling like hurting yourself? No, I'm not feeling like hurting myself, but I am feeling a little down. You know, 4 years ago, I went from running down mountains and slamming basketballs to I can't even move my legs fast, dude, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that was a good question. I think that your advice was awesome. Like I said, I appreciate when people are willing to open up and talk about experiences that, you know, are potentially really hard to talk about, because the whole idea of this podcast was to have guests on here that have different world experience than I do, right? And that are willing to share their journeys, because I think the more that we can hear people's stories and people's journeys and see where they see the world from, the more patience, compassion, love, you know, all of those things we will show to other people. Because right now, like a lot of people are just like, oh man, that guy's a jerk or whatever, and they just base everything off of like one interaction. And so I think opening up people's minds to, you know, hey, people have been through a lot of stuff. You know, we should give each other a little break, you know? So I appreciate that.
Well, when you hear someone's story, you can kind of put yourself in their shoes a little bit. Whereas if you only know little bits and pieces, then you can't. You just, you know, you kind of have something in your mind, like a stigma already about that person or that situation, you know?
Right. Right. Well, I think that's actually a perfect like junction into the next question. So I'm going to ask you the next question, just because you planned that and you did it so well. You stuck to this. You stuck to the script. Thank you. No, I'm
right. Yeah.
So this next question I have for you actually was, what do you typically judge people on when you meet a stranger for the first time?
You know, that's the thing is I try not to. I mean, I do judge people. I guess I judge people on how they treat me or the people around them, you know, or how they kind of talk. When I'm out in public and I'm with my wife in a restaurant, I'm not using foul words and I'm not saying profanities and I'm not acting a fool. You know, I might be messing with Mikey, but, you know, I don't know. Kind of got lost there for a second.
So you try not to judge people when you first.
I mean, I try not to judge people because I know people are looking at me. You know, I thought it was cool to have tattoos all over my head and neck and arms, and now it's like I hate people staring at me, dude. And I know they're looking at me and judging me. And then when I talk to them, like most people, I talk to them and they start to hear me speak. They're like, oh my gosh, man, you don't look, I thought you were going to be mean or this or that, but you're like really, really nice guy. And I'm like, thanks, man. I appreciate that. So I try not
Yeah.
to do the same thing. I try not to judge people by their appearance and just how they treat people around them and myself.
Yeah.
I used to judge
I
people. I used to judge people by what they wore, how they looked, if they had this, if they had that, or. I don't do that no more.
So you were kind of stuck in the worldly game there for a minute. The
Oh,
like, what do they
absolutely.
drive? What do they wear?
Yeah, about what can I have that I can be like, oh, I got this. And
Yeah.
now it's not about. I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could see, I could see how people would judge you for sure based on your tattoos. I can see that. I mean,
Yeah.
you got them up your neck, right? Then you have up
Right.
here on your head too, right? And then just your
Right.
arms. So, I mean,
Arms,
you've got,
chest, stomach, leg. Yeah.
I'd say it's probably mostly this one that gets people though, right? The neck and the head,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because those are kind of ones you don't see typically.
Right.
So, yeah, I can see how people would judge that. I try not to judge people
But like,
either.
yeah,
I just think
you can't.
it's a natural human habit though to do that,
Right.
and you have to kind of be proactive about not doing that, right?
Right.
The old phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, right?
It was a lot harder to do that before I got baptized and like regave myself to God and started like going to church and committing myself to going to church and Bible study and stuff. It was a lot harder to do that, but now I, if I do find myself doing that, I'm able to stop in my head and think and be like, man, that's not how I'm supposed to treat other people. It's not what I'm supposed to be thinking like.
Yeah. So this is kind of an off the cuff one, but so what was it that kind of drew you back to church and going, seeking God?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, Daniel. So when I was in prison in 2001, the very first time I ever went, going to church wasn't a thing that you did in the prison. It just wasn't a thing you did. Uh, but me and my buddies wanted to go. A couple of friends wanted to go, so we went. We sat probably third to the last pew on the left, big church, third to the last pew. I sat probably 3 guys over from the wall. So you had to go through about 10, 11, 12 guys to get to where I was. There was a lady speaking tongues, and she said, God wants me to touch somebody that has doubted. So if everybody bows their head, I'm only going to come. God wants me to come speak to one person. And so in my head, I'm thinking, oh, right. Yeah, wouldn't that be great if it was me? So I bowed my head and I really prayed. And I was like, man, God, if you're real, please let it be me. And it seemed like eternity, but a hand touched my shoulder. My whole body lit up with heat. It felt like my fingers and my toes were going to explode. Everybody was looking at me. Everybody was like, my buddies were like, dude, what was that all about? And after the experience was over, I snapped back into where I was. So I kind of played it off like it was nothing. But inside, I was jumping for joy. But I still had to be a certain person. So I kind of just put it on the back burner and let it go. I almost didn't forget that it happened, but I didn't remember it all the time. And then I met a couple. Let's fast forward to last year, or actually, let's fast forward to 4 years ago. I started my job at UPS, and I met these two brothers, Blake and Brody Enns. I met them, and they're real devout Christians, and I love the way they carried themselves. They were humble, respectful. I loved how they carried themselves. They cared about other people. I was like, man, I want to get to know you guys. And so I told them my story. They really wanted to get to know me more. So they invited me to their church. And I said, dude, I'd love to go there. And I started going on my own without my wife. And I decided to invite Paige. Paige came with me. And the first day Paige came with me, a guy walked up to me and I was kind of having a hard time with my mentality of my body and everything. And a guy comes up to me while my head's bowed and he's like, whispers to me, I can't see his face. And he says, can I pray for you? I say, absolutely. He touches my shoulder and I got that same exact feeling again. Same exact feeling. Same exact feeling. And I was sweating. I almost want to cry right now. I was sweating. Didn't know what to think of it still. Well, we had a lunch date set up for after church with them and his dad, and we went to a restaurant. And I said, hey, man, I want to let you guys know this is what I just had experience. And I broke down my whole testimony like I just did to you. And he said that was the Holy Spirit. And just from that day on, it's just been like harder to be who I used to be, you know?
Yeah. I mean, when you have experiences like that, it changes you.
And then you think back to the things I've been through, and I've been like, how the heck did I get through that? You know, stranded in the middle of Montana in the middle of the night. You know, I'm 19 years old, way up on the hill. Nobody can see me, and then all of a sudden, a little Geo Metro down the road stops and asks me if I need a ride. I say yes, because I was drinking. I was hammered from the night before. I got left at the hot springs by two friends and my wife at the time, and different wives. And I run down there hungover, and he says, man, I got to let you know that God told me that I needed to pick my stuff up and move to Spokane, that there'd be somebody who needed my help on the way. And so God's been speaking to me my whole life, carrying me through the tough times in prison and the having to man up and do the things, you know, to make me who I am today.
It's pretty powerful, bro. It's pretty powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for letting me.
Well, you know, this podcast is all about being real and just forthright with, you know, your experience. And when you can share stuff like that, I think it makes it totally worth it for me and for, I think, all the listeners too, you know?
Absolutely.
So, all right. As with the way my podcast goes, I always throw in some fun questions. It's just the way it works.
I like fun. Yeah.
The way it works. So I was thinking of this one the other day when I was, let's see, were we? I don't even remember where I was, but I was feeling the wind blowing. And I've been in this mindset lately of like just really deep thoughts about Earth and you know, the elements and stuff. And so I started thinking about the wind. And you know what the wind feels like when you feel the wind, right?
Yes.
So what do you think the wind feels when it blows?
Honestly, I think the wind probably has more energy than that, being is that everything was created by God. I feel like the wind feels reciprocated by your feeling. Like if you enjoy the wind, then I think the wind feels enjoyment. If you're somebody that doesn't like storms, then I feel like maybe they feel that reciprocated feeling, like energy back at them, you know?
That's a cool take. I like that. So it kind of plays off of
Thanks.
what it's hitting, right? You still
Right.
there? Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's a good answer. I like
Yeah,
it.
I'm still here.
I
It
like
was
it.
saying reconnecting. So,
Yeah, that's what it said to me too. So I was just wanting to make sure we weren't gonna like, you know, lose the connection and then have to start over or whatever. So I think we're good now though.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, that was a good
yeah.
answer. I really like that. I hadn't thought of it that way, so I like that a lot. All right. Now this is a big one, a big
Okay.
question, and um yeah, I'll just get to the question and then we can discuss it. Is there
Okay.
someone is there someone among your family or friends whose death affected you? And in what way, either positively or negatively? And I know that's going to be a tough one
Man,
because I we have a family story. We have family stories. So
there's more than one. I've
yeah,
got, we'll start with family first. I was in prison when our brother Joe decided to take his own life. And even though I didn't see him all the time or hang out with all the time, I did go live there for a little while with him and we kind of created a little bond. And I just wish that he could have held on a little longer. I wish that he could have, I mean, I just wish that he could have decided that I wish he could have quit drinking. Honestly, I wish he would have never, I wish he wasn't a drinker because drinking has affected my whole family and myself as well back in the day. But I've been drinking for over 20 years because I know what it leads me down. So, and I'm not, but um, I just feel like he used that trait. He was just in a bad spot in his life. And that if he could have just held on a little longer, I think that I could have brightened it up a little bit. And I think that we could have helped each other. Um, and so I just, you know, I, it's always, David, my twin brother, you know, um, knowing that he died just falling asleep and not waking up was easier to cope with because of his lifestyle. And he had so many things wrong with him anyways, health wise. And that it was almost like, thank you, Lord. Thank you. Finally, with Joe, it was, you know, putting it on mom saying you should have let me die. If the doctor says, hey, I have a chance for your son to live, if we cut a hole in his throat, he will live. Well, I know people that have tracheotomies and they live with holes in their throats and they live happy lives, right? But when you're in the darkness and you don't have anybody around you that cares about you and you're far away from your family, he suffered. He suffered physically, mentally, and he was alone, uh, with his last breath, and it sucked, because he was drunk. And I think that he wouldn't have made that decision if he wasn't drunk, you know? And then my dad died. Uh, that was a bummer because that was a bummer, but his Parkinson's started taking a toll on him. And he was having a hard time doing anything, he couldn't walk. He couldn't take care of himself. He couldn't brush his teeth. He could barely close his mouth. Um, and we tried the best we could here, but you know, it takes special care for somebody that can't do anything for themselves. And when you got somebody who just had, at that time, I just went through my first double knee surgery. It's hard to do anything. And so, in a positive way, it's okay because he got to see me succeed and stop using drugs and change my life. I wish he would have been around to see me get baptized and all that other stuff and do this stuff, but he's up there now and he's watching down on me and um in a negative way it affected my life. My mom started drinking again. Mom started polishing beers and then it went to Monaco's and now it's bottles of liquor and pills and um I don't know. It's like you don't. I know plenty of people have lost their husbands of 50 years and they don't use it to go downhill. They use it to, um, I wouldn't say celebrate life, but my dad set up things in place for you to be able to enjoy the rest of your life, but you're wasting it away in an 8 by 12 room. Like you just created your own prison and you don't have to be in it. And then I've got friends, it's just a good friend of mine, nicest guy in the world, 2 daughters. And that's what makes me like really thank God and believe in God is like that guy was the nicest soul in the world. And he was driving his four-wheeler around in a circle around his house on the pavement and rolled it and hit his head and died. Right outside his front house. Healthiest dude in the world. Smartest man in the world. He was smart. He could build anything. Joshua Edelblut. And he died. My buddy Pat got hit crossing the street because he crossed outside of the crosswalk. All he had to do was press the button and the lights would have lit up. But instead he crossed it in the middle of the night drinking, thinking there was no cars coming and he got hit. Died alone. I don't want that to be me, man.
Yeah. 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 I mean, death is one of those things that's inevitable. It'll happen to all of us at some point, right? Um,
Yeah, it's just crazy when like with my dad, I was able to go see him for his last breath when he literally at hospice. We went there and mom called me and said, "Get down here, he's still coherent. You can see his eyes had light." And then I told him, I said, "Hey dad, I know you adopted me. Thank you for giving me your last name. Thank you. I don't know where I'd be today without you." And his eyes went from being human. I watched them slowly glaze, crystallize. He was gone. He's gone.
yeah.
And then we went and saw Paige's grandma about 2 weeks ago, Grandma Dorothy. And she was in that same state where she can't move. She can't talk. Her mouth's wide open. She can't even barely move her eyes. She's just stuck in one spot. And I just told her I loved her and I gave her a kiss and it's just when you're seeing someone in that last state, it really makes you think like, wow, dude, life is short because it don't matter what you got, where you got, everybody ends up in the same bed, dude. It's
Yep.
what you do to the people around you and how you treat the people around you determines how many people you have around that bed when you're laying there by yourself. You know see what I'm saying? When you're on your deathbed
Yep.
waiting to go up to heaven.
Yeah. Well, I think it affects that. And I also think like if you're a good person and you bring that goodness and love to others, not only are people there for you, at the end, but like your energy just kind of lives on. You're
Absolutely.
passing that energy on. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I
That's
think
why I'm an organ donor.
there you go.
I'm an organ donor. I mean, I don't know if you're an organ donor, but on my driver's license I put organ donor because I feel like, once I'm gone, you know, God says to give and love your neighbor. And if there's something in my body that's still good, I don't know what it is yet. It's just these shoulders and these arms, but you know what I mean? You can have them.
I don't know if they take shoulders and arms, but maybe. I don't know.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, that's
That's
awesome.
good. That's funny.
No.
Well, Thanks for answering that one. I knew that one was going to be tough. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I knew that one was going to be tough. So thanks
Yeah.
for answering that.
Yeah.
Um, so the tradition that I took from another podcast of asking a person that I've interviewed for questions for the next person, we're to that stage now where I've got two questions from
Okay.
Amy from episode 1 that she wanted me to
Okay.
ask. So let's start with this one. What would your ideal 2-week road trip be?
Oh man, it's funny. I was just telling Paige this. I would like to go up to or over to, I guess it would be up to Seattle, hit the aquarium with Paige, chill for a week down on the coast, hit the aquarium, hit the zoo, go down to a farmer's market. Um, and really, dude, my whole life now is about that little boy of mine, dude, and just teaching him stuff. And it's funny because I saw a meme about this dad who says, uh, I spoil my kids and then I get mad about my kid being spoiled, acting spoiled, right? So yeah, I would just think to the coast or something cool, like back to Seattle, because when me and Paige first got these pups and I was working for Tricon Commercial Construction, we were on the coast and we took the pups to ocean, and I don't know, it's cool. It'd be a cool 2-week vacation.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, so remind me the dogs' names again and their sizes
Uh,
just for the viewers.
Diesel, he's a American Staffordshire Terrier. He's 108 pounds. And then Dozer, he's his brother, American Staffordshire Terrier, and he's 78 pounds.
Yeah, they're big boys. They are big
Gentle.
boys.
Yeah,
They're gentle, but they're big. They take up a lot
they're
of
big.
space.
Yeah, but trust me, when you have 2 big dogs and 2 little dogs, cleaning up big dog poop is a lot easier than cleaning up little dog poop, dude. I'm telling you. It really is when the grass is long. I'm telling you, easier to see, easier to scoop up, especially when you know what you're feeding your dogs.
All right, all
No.
right. Well, there's a little insight for all the viewers on what kind of dog to get.
Yeah,
You know, the bigger the better, I guess.
bigger the better.
All right, and then the final question is, do you have a favorite song lyric or favorite movie quote that you want to share? That one might take a second.
Man, I don't.
And it doesn't even have to be like deep and insightful. Like, you want me to share the one that comes to mind that I like?
Yeah.
It's a Rick Ross song, and he says something along the lines of, let's see, like, I go to the Enzo from the benzo and back to the benzo when the end's low.
Oh,
So he
fire
goes
when
to
he's
the
out of money.
Enzo
Yeah.
Ferrari when he has money. Then he goes
Okay.
back to the Benz when he doesn't have money because he doesn't have money. So
Right, right.
I just love the play on words. I think it's a pretty sweet little line. I think it's fun.
I can't specifically like point out like a specific verse, but the song that comes to mind that I've been listening to a lot, I'm just going to give you the whole song because like the lyrics in the song are good, but the song is by Annie Wilson and it's Rain in the Rear View. And
Okay.
ever since I rededicated my life to God and got baptized, I don't listen to rap music anymore. I've just been listening to Christian mix on Spotify for the last few months. And only one, because I get nothing out of what they're rapping about because most of it's faulty. No, they're not doing that stuff. Second of all, Christian rap hits just as hard as any of that other gangster rap gangster rap, they say. And
Hmm.
I can bump it in the car and Michael can listen to it and he's getting a message out of it that's real, you know? So,
Yeah, I like it. Remind
yeah.
me the name of it again.
Annie Wilson, Rain in the Rear
Annie
View.
Wilson, Rain in the Rear View. Okay, I'll have to take a listen. I've never heard of it, so I'll take a listen after we're done here.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want my
That's awesome.
questions?
I'll get your questions once
Okay.
we finish up. But
Okay.
yeah, bro, I appreciate you again for stepping up last minute to get this
Yeah,
bad
man.
boy done.
Yeah.
Um, I love that you were open, real, and raw, willing to share experiences, and hopefully, what you had to share touches people's lives.
I hope so.
And I'm grateful for you as a brother. Um, even though we don't see each
Same.
other very often, we
Same.
don't see each other very often. So
Right.
just know that I love you and that, you're
I
always on
love you
my
too,
mind,
man.
bro.
I think
So
about you. I see you.
right
I'm
on.
glad you're doing good. I'm glad you're thriving, brother. I like it. You don't look like you're 45, that's for sure.
Thanks, buddy. That
Yeah.
makes me happy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that concludes episode 2 here on Red Bus Podcast. Thanks for joining, and we out. Peace.
Peace.